I will never forget the hype I had for Starfield prior to launch. One of the most excited times in my gaming life. Because Starfield, while it's not a perfect game, it's not even close to perfect, I find, even though it's not a great game, there are a lot of things I really like about Starfield, and in this video I want to discuss those things, without any of the burden of the significant flaws of its massive problems of game design. I want to discuss the aspects of what I like about Starfield. And some of it isn't also just the game. Some of it's around the marketing, some of it's around the themes, the ideas, and the feeling the game gives me, which maybe is not the game itself, but more so what the talented artists and designers of Bethesda Game Studios were able to accomplish with the limited time they had. Now, I want to put you back in the mind of me in 2023, right before this game came out. I actually got to see the reveal trailer of Starfield in a movie theater. That is not a joke. I was a part of the Xbox Fan Fest program back in 2023, and I got invited. I got an email from Xbox being like, "Hey, do you want to join a bunch of other fans and watch the Xbox Game Showcase in theaters?" I was like, "Fuck yeah, I want to do that." So I traveled an hour to watch a bunch of commercials with a coworker. It was pretty funny, but mainly because I wanted to see the Starfield Direct. I was extremely excited for Starfield, and I wanted to see it with a bunch of other people in the theater. And let me tell you, that was one of the most fun experiences I've ever had with a game showcase in my life. When Todd Howard was a few times would crack jokes, like I remember in the Direct that you talked about all the sandwiches you could have in your ship and all that. The whole theater started laughing, and there was all these amazing moments. The obsessed fan coming out in which is a reference to Oblivion happening, and everyone flipping out in the theater. Oh, there's just so many moments I'll never forget from watching that Direct with a crowded group of people. Right, that showcase really sold the game unbelievably well. Too well, in fact, because the game would not live up to any of the expectations shown in that trailer. But it gave me hope that like something was happening, right? They were really making something, and it really did take them this long to make it. Clearly, that was not what the end product was. But there are things that I really like about Starfield that we'll discuss in a moment. But then I want to discuss the release. The release of Starfield was nothing short of a fucking disaster. It started out really strong. People were playing it. People were like, yeah, this is pretty good. You know, it feels like a BGS game, and it feels like something that, like, keeps the foundation. But I found the longer people played it, the more problems they had. Because they could see what the game really was, which was not really deep. Which we cannot deny. It's just the facts. And Nakey Jakey, about 2 months after the game's release, makes a scathing video that I believe changes the entire conversation on Starfield for the worse. Which I'm not saying is a bad thing. I love Nakey Jakey, and I love that video. But you cannot deny the discourse around Starfield becomes a lot more toxic after that point. Because people are more open to be like, yeah, this game kind of sucks. But the thing about Starfield to me is I don't think it does suck. I don't think it's like a horrible game. I don't think it's great. I don't think it's amazing. I don't think it's what was promised. But I do think it's a good game that has a lot of things going for it, but doesn't get quite there. And in some ways, I respect that more than a game that's trying to be perfect, which it clearly isn't. It's trying to be Starfield, for better or for worse. So I want to discuss right now the things I really enjoy about Starfield, and what I'll always remember about my time playing this game. And maybe this is a video type we can discuss in the future with other games that people don't like, or people have different opinions on that I have a different opinion on, that we can discuss in the future. But I want to start off with the score, the music. Starfield's score is one of the best video game scores I've heard in my entire life. This one is a really passionate subject for me. The score that was made for this game is almost perfect to me. It creates the vibe of the game more than the game does itself, which is impressive. It conveys the themes of sci-fi adventure more than words, more than text, more than dialogue, more than visuals could ever do. Because the sweeping score when you in space, or when you land on New Atlantis for the first time, it's just unreal. It sounds like every sci-fi wet dream you've ever had. And it's like, dude, they just made one of the best sci-fi scores for anything. I think it's better than some movie sci-fi scores. It's that good. It's unreal. It creates the feeling of adventure that you really need for a product or game like this. I don't think this game would have worked without its fantabulous score. It's whimsy times 1,000. Now, the next thing I really like about Starfield is the vibe. The feeling of adventure, the feeling of exploration, even though there isn't that much of it. It just feels special. I don't know. And maybe it's just because I like the world of Starfield, not really the gameplay, but like it's just kind of a fun, like the main cities are just kind of fun to explore. Obviously there's not much to do in these things, but I just like exploring them. I don't know. Now the many thousand empty planets, those I do not like exploring, for full clarification. Those are complete garbage fest. But the main cities, the main places, the main quest lines have really interesting spaces to explore, which I think is cool. There's a lot to sink your teeth in, and there's a lot to not sink your teeth in, so there also is that. The other thing I really like about Starfield is its aesthetic, which Bethesda famously called the NASA punk aesthetic. And let me tell you, brilliant marketing name, because it really gets across what they're trying to do. They made a sci-fi universe that is heavily grounded in modern space travel. Obviously with heavy sci-fi inspiration. We don't have grav drives, I don't believe, in real life, so but as for like the aesthetic, the look of the space suits, the look of the ships, of what we believed spaceships would look like in like the 60s, the 70s, right? It creates the atmosphere of like, what will the future hold, right? Which is what NASA and the entire mission of space travel has always been about. It's about looking for the future of society and mankind, right? So having a sci-fi game that's not trying to be super like crazy future, but more so like this whimsical, like, what if we could go further than what we already have, look, is really interesting to me. And I've never seen any sci-fi property do it the way Starfield has. It's grounded, but new. It's fresh, but old. It's just so exciting to look at. You're just like, wow, they really did something different with sci-fi, which is hard because sci-fi has been done so many times, and they found a way to make sci-fi different, which I think is really cool. And that's one thing where I'm like, I don't know how the fuck they did that. It like I would never have thought in a million years like that's the look I would go for a sci-fi game, but here we are, and it works so well. It just works. You know, as Todd Howard says, it just works. It just works, guys. But in this case, it really does. Todd Howard was right in this one case. I also really like New Atlantis, the main city in Starfield. I think it is. I remember in the direct, they famously called it the biggest city they've ever built, which is funny because it is, but also like, you know, I mean, that's not how you demonstrate how great a city is. But I think the scale of it does add something to it in a weird way, because it makes the scale of your ships, of the skyline, of the buildings, a lot more daunting to a player, and in a way where it's like, wow, that's a really big building. My character's not that big, but with my spaceship I can fly out the, well, you can't fly out the solar system in Starfield. You can fly out to a loading screen though, but not to that. But I found New Atlantis to be a very unique city because it was cool to look at, not to touch, but with most things in Starfield. But weirdly enough, I felt like it felt very lived in, which I haven't felt with a lot of Bethesda cities, which might be a controversial take, but it felt like there were more people walking around than like a city in Skyrim, which, you know, has like a few people every now and then. It felt more like lived in, in the best words possible I could use. It feels like a more lived in city, which is kind of cool. I fuck with it, to be honest with you. I fuck with New Atlantis. I think it's a cool city. I'd live there. I got a fucking house in New Atlantis. But yeah, you might be wondering why I'm not talking about the negative stuff in this video. And the reason actually is that quite simple. Well, yes, there's a lot to say negative about Starfield. There are many videos that have already done that on this platform. And it's not that I can't talk about those things. It's just more so that, like, I'd rather talk about something, even if... I'd rather talk about the more positive aspects of a game. I appreciate you all taking the time to listen. Please subscribe today. I do some work on this channel that it really means a lot what I do on this channel. So if you feel like at all you were entertained by this, you felt inspired by this idea of positivity, leave a like, leave a subscribe, whatever you prefer. No pressure on it. I love making you all happy. So hey, take it easy, guys, and gamers is up.